The alarm bells rang through the space station like angry metal birds. Commander Jake Morrison ran down the long white halls, his boots making loud sounds on the floor. Behind him, his team followed just as fast. They all knew what the bells meant. Someone, somewhere in the galaxy, needed help badly. Jake reached the communication room and saw the big screen showing a fuzzy picture. The image kept breaking up, but he could see a tall, lizard-like creature with scared yellow eyes. The creature's mouth moved fast, speaking words that the computer changed into English. "Please, anyone who can hear this message. Our world is dying. The sun sent out a big blast of deadly light and broke our shields. Our people are getting sick. We have maybe 10 days before everyone dies. We need help. Please." Amy Rodriguez, Jake's second in command, stood next to him reading numbers from a small screen. "Boss, that's the Kethvar homeworld. 12 billion. People live there. The radiation is getting worse every hour." Jake knew about the Kethvar. They were smart lizard people who lived on a planet far from Earth. They had always said humans were too wild and stupid to be trusted. They never wanted human help before. Now they were asking everyone for help. "What did the other races say?" Jake asked. Amy checked her computer. "The Galactic Council met 3 hours ago. The Zephyrians ran their computer programs and said it can't be done. The Crystal people said their ships are too slow to get there in time. Even the old builder. Ray said no. They all think it's impossible." Paul Martinez, the team's weapons expert, shook his head. 12 billion people. That's a lot of folks to just give up on." Jake looked at the scared lizard on the screen. The creature kept talking, but now it was crying. Green tears ran down, its face as it begged for someone to help save its people. Jake had seen that look before. It was the look of someone who knew they were going to die but still hoped someone might care enough to try. "How long to get there?" Jake asked. "In the horizon's edge?" "About 6 days if we push the engines hard," Amy said. "But Jake, even if we get there, how do we save 12 billion people? Our ship only holds 300. Jake thought about all the times other races had said humans were crazy. The Vortai always said humans took too many risks. The hegemony called humans unpredictable and dangerous. The council rarely asked humans for help because they said human methods were too messy. But Jake remembered the water world of Aquinas. Everyone said those people couldn't be saved when their ocean turned to poison. Helen Burke and her team saved them anyway. He remembered the crystal singers of Melodia. The math said they would all die when their planet's music stopped. Steve Walker found a way to make them live. Other people in the galaxy were smarter than humans. They had better computers and faster ships. They could do math that would make human heads hurt. But they all had one big problem. If their computers said something couldn't be done, they believed it and stopped trying. Humans were different. When someone said it couldn't be done, humans heard that as, "No one has figured out how to do it yet." "Get everyone ready," Jake said. "We're going to Kethvar." Amy looked worried. "Jake, the council already said it's hopeless. Every smart race in the galaxy ran the numbers. We don't have enough ships or time or anything." "The council gave up," Jake said. "We don't give up. That's what makes us different." The team moved fast to get ready. Lisa Chang, their science officer, started looking up everything about Kethvar people and their planet. Tony Rodriguez began checking the ship's engines and making sure they could fly faster than ever before. Beth Turner sent messages to other human rescue teams, asking if they were close enough to help. Greg Johnson, the team doctor, loaded his medical supplies and started reading about Kethvar biology. He needed to know how to help lizard people who were getting sick from radiation. As the ship got ready to leave, Jake stood in his small room looking at pictures on his wall. There were photos from every world his team had saved. Families smiling, children playing, old people crying happy tears because they got to live another day. The other races in the galaxy thought humans were simple and emotional. They were right. Humans did feel things strongly. When they saw people in danger, they couldn't just walk away because a computer said the math was bad. Jake remembered what his old teacher used to say back on Earth. "Son, being smart is good, being brave is better, but being too stubborn to quit when people need you? That's what makes heroes." The Horizon's Edge left the station and jumped into hyperspace. They had 6 days to travel and 4 days to save 12 billion lives. Every other race said it couldn't be done. Jake and his team were going to prove them wrong. Again. As the stars blurred past the windows, Jake thought about the scared lizard on the screen. Soon, that creature would learn something important about humans. When everyone else stopped believing humans were just getting started, the real work was about to begin. Dr. Lisa Chang sat in her small office on the horizon's edge, looking at files on her computer screen. The ship was flying fast through space toward the dying world of Kethvar, but Lisa had work to do. She had been studying something important for 3 years now. She wanted to know why human rescue teams could save people when everyone else failed. Lisa opened a file called Melodia Mission Report. The screen showed pictures of tall crystal beings who made beautiful music with their bodies. Their planet had been hit by space rocks that broke their singing crystals. Without the crystals, the planet got too cold and everyone was going to freeze to death. The Vortai Council had sent their best scientists to help. They used big computers to find the perfect solution. The computers said the crystal people needed exactly 4,847 new crystals placed in exactly the right spots. The job would take 6 months. The crystal people only had 2 months before they all died. The Vortai scientists looked at their numbers again. The computers were never wrong. They told the crystal people they were sorry, but it was impossible to save them. The Vortai ships left. Then Captain Steve Walker arrived with his human team. Lisa read his report again. Steve didn't use big computers to solve the problem. Instead, he asked the crystal people a simple question. What if we don't try to fix everything perfectly? What if we just try to keep you alive? The crystal people said that was crazy. They needed perfect crystal harmony or their world would die. But Steve's team started working anyway. They found old broken crystals and put them together in new ways. The music sounded terrible, but it made enough heat to keep everyone alive. While the crystal people learned to live with bad music, Steve's team kept working. They didn't try to make everything perfect. They just tried to make things a little better each day. After 4 months, the music was good enough. The crystal people lived. Lisa closed that file and opened another one. Aquinas Water World Crisis. She remembered this one well because she had been there. The water planet Aquinas was dying because space chemicals had fallen into their ocean. The water was turning into poison that killed everything it touched. The planet had 40 billion fish-like people who couldn't live anywhere else. The Hegemony Empire sent their best engineers. They built giant machines to clean the water. The machines worked perfectly, but they were too slow. The engineers calculated that cleaning the whole ocean would take 8 years. The fish people would all be dead in 1 year. The Hegemony engineers were very smart. They ran the numbers many times. Their math was perfect. They told the fish people that saving them was impossible with current technology. Maybe in 50 years they would have better machines. The Hegemony ships left. Commander Helen Burke brought her human team to Aquinas 2 weeks later. Lisa had been the science officer on that mission. She remembered how Helen looked at the poison water and said something that surprised everyone. "We're not going to clean the ocean," Helen said. "We're going to teach the ocean to clean itself." The fish people said that was impossible. Water couldn't think or learn. But Helen's team started anyway. They found tiny life forms that could eat the space chemicals. These tiny creatures were almost dead from the poison, but a few were still alive. Helen's team didn't try to build perfect machines. Instead, they helped the tiny creatures grow stronger. They fed them and protected them and helped them make more of themselves. Soon there were millions of tiny creatures eating the poison. The Hegemony engineers heard about this and came back. They said Helen's plan was messy and unscientific. The tiny creatures might change in ways no one could predict. But Helen kept working anyway. After 6 months, the ocean was clean. The tiny creatures had eaten all the poison and then gone back to their normal lives. The fish people were saved. Lisa looked at more files. The singing storms of Ventara. The ice moons of Polar 7. The floating cities of Cloud Prime. 49 different worlds that other races had given up on. 49 worlds that human teams had saved. She saw the pattern now. It was always the same story. Smart aliens would study a problem and find the perfect solution. When the perfect solution was impossible, they would give up and leave. Humans never looked for perfect solutions. They looked for any solution that might work. When that solution failed, they tried something else. They kept trying new ideas until something worked. Lisa realized something important. The other races in the galaxy were afraid of failure. They only tried things when they were sure they would work. Humans were different. They expected to fail many times before they succeeded. The ship's communication system buzzed. "Dr. Chang, please come to the bridge," Jake's voice said. Lisa walked to the front of the ship where Jake and his team were looking at the big screen. The screen showed the Kethvar home world getting closer. The planet looked sick. Its blue color was turning gray from the radiation. "What do you think, Doc?" Jake asked. "The Galactic Council's computers say we need at least 60 big ships to evacuate 12 billion people. We have one ship." Lisa looked at the dying planet and thought about all the files she had read. Every other race would look at this problem and see that it was impossible. They would run computer programs and do math and prove that it couldn't be done. But Lisa had learned something from studying human rescue missions. The secret wasn't about having better computers or more ships. The secret was about not giving up when things looked impossible. "The Council is right," Lisa said. "We can't evacuate 12 billion people with one ship. But maybe we don't need to evacuate them. Maybe we need to find a different way to save them." Jake smiled. "That's what I wanted to hear. Time to prove the galaxy wrong again." The horizon's edge moved into orbit around the dying planet of Kethvar. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge looking at the big screen that showed the world below. The planet looked very sick. Gray clouds covered most of the land, and the oceans had turned a strange yellow color. Radiation from the sun was killing everything. Amy Rodriguez was reading numbers from her computer. "Jake, it's worse than we thought. The radiation is getting stronger every hour. At this rate, everyone on the planet will die in 4 days, not 10. Jake felt his stomach drop. 4 days was not enough time to save 12 billion people, but he had learned not to panic when things looked impossible. "What's our first step?" Lisa Chang looked up from her science station. "We need to talk to their leaders. Maybe they know something that can help us." Beth Turner worked at the communication controls. "I'm getting a signal from the planet now. It's coming from their capital city." The big screen changed to show the inside of a building. A tall lizard creature sat behind a metal desk. Its skin was green with silver spots and its yellow eyes looked very tired. The creature wore a long blue robe that marked it as an important leader. "I am High Counselor Vextra," the creature said in a deep voice. "Are you the humans who came to help us?" Jake stepped forward. "Yes, sir, I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We're here to get your people to safety." Vextra made a sound that might have been laughing, but it sounded sad. "Commander, I thank you for coming. But even you humans cannot work miracles. We have 12 billion people and nowhere to take them. Our ships are too slow and too few." Amy checked her computer again. "Counselor, we've been looking at your evacuation plans. Your computers say to save the young and healthy first." "That makes sense." Vextra's eyes became even more tired. "Yes, that is what logic tells us. Save 4 billion of our youngest and strongest. Let the other 8 billion die here. It is the only way to keep our species alive." Jake felt something cold in his chest. He had seen this before on other worlds. Smart computer programs that could only think about numbers, not about people. "Counselor, what do your people think about this plan?" "Our computers have told everyone the truth," Vextra said. "The young ones are getting ready to leave. The older ones are saying goodbye." Beth Turner was listening to other signals from the planet. She looked confused. "Jake, I'm hearing something strange. It sounds like many of the older Kethvar are refusing to go to the evacuation ships." Vextra looked down at his desk. "Our elders believe they should stay behind so the young can live. It is our way. The old give their lives for the young." Lisa Chang suddenly looked very interested. "Counselor, are you saying the older people want to stay and die?" They are not just staying, Vextra said quietly. They are working extra hard to help the young ones get ready to leave. They want to use their last days to save as many young people as possible. Jake looked at his team. He could see they were all thinking the same thing. The HFY elders weren't just waiting to die. They were actively helping with the evacuation. That was something no computer program would have calculated. Tony Rodriguez, the team's engineer, was studying readings from the planet. Jake, I'm looking at their power systems. The HFY have been using all their energy to keep their cities running. But what if we use that energy for something else? What do you mean? Jake asked. Tony's fingers moved fast over his computer. Their planet has hundreds of shield generators. The generators are broken, but the power systems still work. What if we could change those generators into something else? Lisa was getting excited. Like what? Transport beams, Tony said. Instead of making shields, we could make the generators, send people directly to our ship. Amy shook her head. Tony, transport beams need huge amounts of power, and they've never been used to move so many people at once. That's what I thought too, Tony said. But look at this. The HFY elders are working so hard to help that they're using less power for themselves. The extra power could run the transport beams. Jake was starting to understand. You're saying the elders' sacrifice gives us the power we need to save everyone? Not just the elders, Tony said. Everyone is working together. The young ones are helping too. The whole planet is using less power because they're all focused on helping each other. Vextra was listening to this conversation with growing amazement. You humans want to save everyone, not just the young ones? That's the idea, Jake said. But we need your help. We need every person on your planet to work together. Commander, Vextra said slowly, our computers say what you are suggesting is impossible. The power requirements are too high. The transport systems have never been tested for this kind of work. Jake smiled. Counselor, let me tell you something about humans. We specialize in doing impossible things, but we need your people to trust us and work with us. Paul Martinez was checking the ship's systems. Jake, even if we can transport people to our ship, we can only hold 300 at a time. Where do we put 12 billion people? We don't keep them on our ship, Jake said. We transport them directly to colony ships in other systems. We become a bridge, not a destination. Lisa was working on her computer. I'm sending messages to every human colony within 10 light years. If they all help, we might have enough ships to hold everyone. Amy looked worried. Jake, this plan has never been tried before. We don't know if it will work. Jake looked at the scared but hopeful face of Vextra on the screen. Counselor, are your people willing to try something that might not work? Vextra was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Commander Morrison, my people are about to die. If you humans are willing to try to save us, we will do whatever you ask. Then let's get started, Jake said. We have 4 days to do the impossible. The first day of the rescue operation started badly. Tony Rodriguez was working with HFY engineers to change their shield generators into transport beams. Everything seemed to be going well until they tried to transport the first group of people. The power failed. Alarms went off all over the planet's capital city. The lights went out and computers stopped working. In the darkness, Jake could hear HFY people making scared noises. The transport beam had used too much power and broken the city's electrical system. High Counselor Vextra appeared on the emergency screen, his yellow eyes full of worry. Commander Morrison, our main power grid is dead. Without power, we cannot run the transport system. Amy Rodriguez checked her readings. Jake, the power failure is spreading to other cities. At this rate, the whole planet will lose electricity in 6 hours. Most alien races would have stopped here. Their computers would show that the plan had failed, and they would look for a different solution. But Jake had learned something important about being human. When the first plan doesn't work, you don't give up. You find a way to make it work. Tony, what caused the power failure? Jake asked. Tony was studying his computer screen. The transport beam needs steady power, but the city's electricity jumps up and down. When we tried to beam up 50 people at once, it was like trying to drink from a fire hose. So we need steady power, Jake said. Where can we get that? Maria Santos, the team's electrical expert, had been quiet until now. She was looking at readings from all over the planet. Jake, the power isn't gone, it's just being used wrong. Look at this. Maria's screen showed a map of the planet with thousands of small lights. Each of these lights is a small power generator. Houses, schools, hospitals. They all have their own power systems. The big generators failed, but the small ones are still working. Can we connect all the small generators together? Jake asked. Not the way they're set up now, Maria said. But what if we use something that's already connected to every building? On the planet? Amy looked confused. What's connected to every building? Maria smiled. The communication system. Every building has communication wires. We can send power through those wires instead of just messages. Tony was getting excited. Maria, that's crazy. Communication wires aren't made to carry power. They could burn out. They'll burn out if we use too much power, Maria said. But what if we use just a little power from each building? Thousands of small power sources instead of one big one. Jake looked at Vexitra on the screen. Counselor, would your people be willing to give power from their homes to help save everyone? Vexitra didn't even think about it. Commander, our people are already giving their lives. Giving power from their homes is easy. Maria and Tony worked for hours connecting the communication system to the power system. It was dangerous work because one mistake could burn out the whole planet's communication network. But they kept working because 12 billion lives depended on it. While they worked, Greg Johnson discovered another problem. Some of the Kethvar people were getting sick from radiation faster than expected. The sickness was making them too weak to stand up during transport. Greg could have asked Jake to only transport the healthy people first. That would have been the logical thing to do. Instead, Greg did something that surprised everyone. He went down to the planet himself. Greg, what are you doing? Jake asked over the radio. The radiation down there will make you sick too. Maybe, Greg said as he worked in a hospital full of sick Kethvar people. But I think I can help them get strong enough for transport. Greg had brought medicine from Earth, but it was made for humans, not lizard people. He had to change the medicine to work on Kethvar bodies. Most doctors would have said this was too dangerous to try, but Greg remembered something his teacher had told him in medical school. Sometimes the best medicine isn't about being perfect, it's about caring enough to try. Greg mixed human medicine with Kethvar healing plants. He didn't know if it would work, but he knew these people would die without help. He gave the new medicine to a few sick Kethvar and waited. After 2 hours, the sick lizard people were sitting up and talking. The medicine worked. By the end of the second day, Maria and Tony had connected power from over 1 million Kethvar homes. The transport system was working, but slowly. They could only move 100 people every hour. At this rate, we'll need 5 years to move everyone, Amy said. We only have 2 days left. But then something amazing happened. Beth Turner was listening to communications from all over the planet. She heard Kethvar families talking to each other, and what she heard made her smile. Jake, listen to this, Beth said. She played a recording of Kethvar voices talking in their own language. The computer translated their words. Grandmother, we know you want to stay and let the young ones go first. But the humans say they can save everyone. Please trust them and come with us. I will come, little one. These humans are different from other sky people. They do not give up when things are hard. Beth played more recordings. All over the planet, Kethvar families were talking about the humans. They were amazed that Jake's team kept working even when things went wrong. Vextra appeared on the screen again, but this time he looked different. His tired eyes were now full of something Jake had not seen before. Hope. Commander Morrison, Vextra said, my people want you to know something. We have lived for 1,000 years and we have met many races from the stars. You humans are the first ones who kept working when your first plan failed. You are the first ones who came down to our planet to help our sick. You are the first ones who asked our families to help save each other. We're just doing our job, Counselor, Jake said. No, Vextra said firmly. Other races do their job when it is easy. You humans do your job when it is impossible. That is Why my people now believe we can all be saved. Jake looked around at his team. They were all tired and worried, but they were still working. Maria was checking power connections. Tony was making the transport system work faster. Greg was helping sick people get better. Amy was talking to colony ships, finding places for Kethvar families to live. They weren't doing anything special. They were just refusing to quit when people needed help, but to the Kethvar people that made them heroes. 2 more days, Jake said to his team. Let's bring everyone home. 6 months after the Kethvar rescue, Jake Morrison stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The room was huge, with seats for representatives from hundreds of different alien races. All of them had come to hear Jake answer one simple question that had puzzled the galaxy for years. Why did human rescue teams succeed when everyone else failed? The Zephyrian ambassador stood up first. He was tall and thin with blue skin and no hair. His people were known for being very logical and smart. Commander Morrison, the ambassador said in a voice that sounded like music, we have studied your methods for many years. We do not understand how you succeed when our computers say success is impossible. Jake looked around the room at all, the different alien faces. Some looked like lizards, others like birds or fish or things he had no names for. But they all had the same expression. They were confused and wanted answers. Ambassador, Jake said, can I ask you a question first? When your computers tell you something is impossible, what do you do? The Zephyrian ambassador looked surprised. We accept the computer's analysis, of course. Our computers are never wrong about probability calculations. And what do humans do when our computers say something is impossible? Jake asked. The ambassador thought for a moment. You ignore your computers and try anyway. This seems very unwise. Jake smiled. That's exactly right. And that's the first part of the answer to your question. A representative from the Crystal Collective spoke next. Her body was made of living crystal that changed colors when she talked. Commander Morrison, ignoring logic cannot be the only reason for your success. There must be something else. You're right, Jake said. Dr. Chang, would you explain what you discovered? Lisa Chang stepped forward carrying a computer tablet. She had spent months writing a report about human rescue operations. Honored representatives, I studied 49 rescue missions where humans succeeded after other races had given up. I found something interesting. Lisa touched her tablet and a big screen showed pictures from different worlds. Every other race in the galaxy follows the same pattern when facing a crisis. First, you analyze the problem completely. Second, you design a perfect solution. Third, you calculate if the solution will work. Fourth, if the calculations show failure is likely, you abandon the mission. Murmurs went around the room. Many of the aliens were nodding because this was exactly how they solved problems. Humans follow a different pattern, Lisa continued. First, we look at the problem quickly. Second, we try any solution that might help a little bit. Third, when that solution doesn't work perfectly, we change it or try something different. Fourth, we keep changing and trying until something works. The representative from the Hegemony Empire stood up. He looked like a giant insect with 4 arms. Dr. Chang, this human method sounds very inefficient. You waste time and resources on solutions that do not work. That's true, Lisa said. But we've learned something important. Perfect solutions don't exist for impossible problems. Only working solutions exist. Jake stepped forward again. Let me tell you what really makes humans different. It's not that we're smarter or stronger or have better technology. It's something much simpler. The room became very quiet. Every alien was listening carefully. We still believe in hope, Jake said. High Counselor Vextra from Kethvar was sitting in the front row. He had asked to speak at this meeting. May I tell these representatives what I observed during our rescue? Jake nodded, and Vextra stood up. His green skin looked much healthier now that his people were safe on their new worlds. Honored Council, Vextra said. When Commander Morrison's team came to save my people, I watched them work. When their power system failed, they did not recalculate failure probabilities. They found a different way to get power. When our people Got too sick to transport, they did not abandon the sick ones. They made new medicine to help them get better. Vextra paused and looked around the room. But the most important thing I observed was this. When I told them that saving everyone was impossible, they did not argue with me. They simply said, "Let's try anyway." The Vortai representative spoke up. "Counselor Vextra, this seems like emotional thinking, not logical thinking." "You are correct," Vextra said. "It is emotional thinking. But I learned something from watching humans work. Sometimes emotional thinking finds answers that logical thinking cannot see." Jake knew it was time to tell the council the complete truth. "Representatives, Dr. Chang's research found something that explains everything. Every race in this galaxy has evolved past the need for hope. Your civilizations are so advanced that you can predict most outcomes. You only act when you're sure you'll succeed." Jake looked at each section of alien representatives. "Humans are different because we evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to hope for survival even when death seemed certain. We learned to keep trying even when logic said we should give up." The room was completely silent now. "Earth made us into a species that specializes in impossible situations," Jake continued. "We carried that ability to the stars. When your people face extinction-level problems that logic cannot solve, you call us. Not because we're the best at everything, but because we're the only ones who still try when everyone else stops believing." Lisa stepped forward again. "The council asked us to make this meeting official. We're not just another member race. We're something unique in the galaxy. We're the species that other species call when they need hope." Jake looked at the council members. "We accept this role. The Human Rescue Corps will be ready whenever impossible situations happen. Because that's what humans do. We show up when everyone else has given up." The Zephyrian ambassador stood up again. "Commander Morrison, there is one more question. How do you maintain hope when facing impossible odds?" Jake thought about all the missions his teams had completed, all the worlds they had saved, all the families that were still alive because humans refused to quit. "Ambassador," Jake said, "it's simple. Someone has to believe that impossible things can be done. Someone has to keep trying when everyone else stops. Someone has to care more about saving lives than about being logical." Jake smiled at the room, full of confused but impressed aliens. "Humans volunteer for that job. We're too stubborn to be smart and too hopeful to be logical. But when your people are dying and all hope seems gone, we're the ones who will still answer your call." The council voted that day to make the Human Rescue Corps an official galactic institution. As Jake signed the papers, he thought about his old teacher's words. Being smart was good, being brave was better, but being too stubborn to quit when people needed help? That's what made heroes. Somewhere in the galaxy, another impossible crisis was probably starting. Jake and his people would be ready.